they were also thinking that if there was a need to demonstrate a capacity to preserve financial stability in the euro area, they would be equally incapable to take the tough decisions necessary for a lot of good reasons. I regularly observe this phenomenon, being myself observer and actor in Europe since 30 years. There is always ex ante an underassessment, underestimation of the capacity of the organ to take decisions, to decide. Perhaps it is explainable with the fact that we are in a complex institutional framework. That we have 27 governments, 16 governments, tomorrow perhaps more. And that we have institutions that are themselves complex. And the average observer in the rest of the world has no comparison. The comparison will be with a full-fledged political federation, with a full-fledged centralized country. So this complexity of Europe is, in my opinion, regularly conducting market participants, investors and savers at the global level to underestimate the capacity of the European. And so I'm not surprised that progressively the decisions that have been taken are so different from what was anticipated. The individual decisions of government as well as the collegial decision are progressively incorporated by investors, savers, market participants, and that might explain why things are going progressively better. On monetary policy, we always said publicly, even at times where I have to say we were heavily criticized, that we were inflexibly attached to the monetary pillar. We said years ago, before the crisis, that we were deepening and broadening our analysis, our monetary analysis. And we exposed regularly, perhaps we should even have been more, I would say, open and communicate much more, but Jürgen will do that today. And I trust really that we have been very, very, I would say, depending on the monetary analysis in key issues. I mentioned two periods where we took decisions that were not advised at all by the mainstream of the analysis and by the economic analysis. In 2004, when we refused to decrease rates, and in December 2005, I take it, and I said that publicly in real time, that the monetary analysis was the reason why we decided to take those decisions which were not advised necessarily, as I said, by international institutions and by the economic analysis. So I don't think that we have ever considered that the monetary analysis was not one of the two pillars of our strategy. And again, of course, today I see a lot of vindication for this sentiment, even if a lot of hard work remains to be done. Nobody can claim victory, neither in terms of action or in terms of concept. We are all working hard. And I have to say, if I may, in conclusion, when we were in the crucial moment of this crisis, where I have to say we were more or less abandoned by theory, and we had to rely very much on our own intuition and, I would say, experience and wisdom. It reminds me of what Einstein said one day. He said, theory is when nothing works, but you know why. Practice is when everything works, but you don't know why. Now we are merging theory and practice, nothing works, and we don't know why. Because the impression we had, mid-September 08. Anyway, thank you. Other questions?
There's one more question from Professor Siegmann, who's a director at the Institute of Monetary and Financial Stability here in Frankfurt.
Mr. President, you demonstrated in the course of your address the great dangers the Western industrialized world had been in. And you also outlined the attempts to improve the regulatory system. To be frank, if you look at the supervisory bodies and the host of rules and statutes and regulations as a whole, it did not do its job. It failed totally because it was made to prevent what we have been seeing for almost 3 years. And now my question is, would it be now not the time to take a more radical approach, to discard the whole system and to build, to rebuild, to reconstruct a totally new system? You made a remark at the conclusion of your address, we need a quantum leap of surveillance. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that? Do we not need a much more radical approach instead of tinkering with details?
Yeah. First of all, the quantum leap on surveillance was for the 27 and the 16 and the improvement of our framework inside Europe. But I fully agree, of course, on the fact that, as I said, we cannot afford to be twice in the same extremely dramatic currency situation. In any case, I trust that our democracies will not permit to do again what I said, the 27% of taxpayer risk. So whether you need tabula rasa of, I would say, regulation, supervisory authorities, and perhaps if I go along the revolutionary vision that is yours, perhaps also tabula rasa as regards the financial instruments, markets functioning and so forth, or whether we can, as has been decided by a global consensus of the 20, try to improve resolutely all dimensions of the global financial system. I incline to think that the second option is better. But I would agree with you, we are far from being sure that the system is resilient. The procyclicality, I said that it was one of the major ones. Procyclicality of the system is absolutely obvious. We could experience that right now, not in a way that right now. The credit rating agencies are accompanying and amplifying the market much more than taking the objective elements that should normally guide their own judgment. And I could say the same for a very large number of part and parcel of global finance. It's also true that when we have in the global financial system a level of highly leveraged of capital under management by highly leveraged institutions, which is perhaps $200 billion, as was the case in the year 90, or $500 billion, as was the case in 2000, or $3 trillion, as was the case in 2007, or X trillion dollars, as is the case today. We are not in the same system. And I'm not sure that we have taken all the systemic consequences of a system where highly leveraged institutions have the capacity to manage a totally different proportion of free global capital in their own decision. So I fully agree that we still have a lot of hard work to do. I would say perhaps we have to consider that in the present system where, again, we are all attached, including all emerging countries, to market economy with the sentiment that there is no better system. We are all attached to innovation and creativity because it's precisely part of market economies. We are all, of course, totally depending on the progress of science and technology. And we have to price in the fact that during the next 20 or 30 years, the problem progress of technology, particularly in the domain where the interaction with markets is phenomenal, will be at least as rapid as has been observed over the last 20 years. I'm absolutely convinced that this progress will be much more rapid. We are in a phase of acceleration of technological progress. So that would call for, in my opinion, more the sentiment that we have to be as exhaustive as possible in identifying all the dimensions of this phenomenon of the evolution of global finance, of the global economy that we have under our eyes, and try to treat exactly like you treat a disease with multiple remedies. You know, we have to be sure that we are as systematic as possible in improving every part and parcel of global finance. But I will not be in favor of tabula rasa necessarily.
Thank you very much, Mr.